All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in, and welcome. Good morning if you're in Toronto, if you're in Canada. Good afternoon if you're in Africa, and if you're in Europe. Thank you so much for joining in from all over the world. You're welcome to CyberX's Women in Cybersecurity Beyond Borders event, obviously being hosted from 22nd to 25th of March. Today, we're going to be talking about a very important topic. That's leveling the playing field, how to build careers for women in tech. And we have with us today 5 very, very awesome, impressive women, all the way from Nigeria, representing EduTech Venture Garden Group. They will be speaking with us about their experiences in tech, right? And we'll be taking these conversations in so many different directions. We have with us, I'll just read with you their bios very quickly. First off, we have Chidima Okafor. She's a software engineer at Venture Garden Group. She is a trained medical radiographer, software engineer, and user experience evangelist. So pretty much she's currently a research and development software engineer at Venture Garden Group. Next up, we have Oluwaseyi Aromoke, and she's an information security analyst with Venture Garden Group. So Shaya is usually also known as Maggie. She's an information security analyst with a concentration in GRC. She has over 2 years of professional experience practicing cybersecurity in the Nigerian tech space and working with multi-sector technology providers. Next up, we have Adenuga Lawal. She's a senior product manager at Venture Garden Group as well. Adenuga is a professional with a track record of translating ideas into digital experiences. She has worked for over a decade in various fields, including sales, marketing, communications, e-business, and user experience. In her current role, she's currently the head of product for 2 of her company's subsidiaries. That's the EduTech and lending businesses. And next up, we have Onyekachi Ginger-Eke. She's currently the VP of operations at Venture Garden Group. She's a seasoned professional with over 20 years of experience, spanning across strategic management, designing and deploying business and IT solutions, project management, business academic, research, and also business advisory. She's a Big Four trained and has an extensive experience in fintech and financial inclusion advocacy. And last but not least, we have Tejumade Adeyinka. She's the head of growth for Send Cash and Get Cards, which I think is a subsidiary of Venture Garden Group. Send Cash, her company currently deals with cryptocurrency exchange for Africans. She's very passionate about leveraging technology to open up financial systems and facilitate the free, open, and borderless exchange of value for everyone. She's also the founder of Workaroo. That's an online community that prepares students and recent graduates for the world of work. And there you have it. 5 women on our panel today. I'll just kick things off with a brief statistic. Pretty much a Nigerian statistic, but it's pretty much a statistic that mirrors what we have in the world today. According to a report by the National Bureau of Statistics, that's the Nigerian National Bureau of Statistics, we have 22% of graduates in technology and engineering, female 22% of graduates in technology and engineering. And currently a fifth of the IT tech workforce in Nigeria are women. This is compared to the global and US average of 25%, according to the National Center for Women and Information Technology. So we have 20% of IT tech workforce in Nigeria being women, and the global and US average being 25%. So we have a lot to do in leveling that playing field. I'm going to go into our panel and ask, sort of lead the discussions and talk, have some talking points. And we'll probably leave 5 minutes at the end for some questions from the audience. So I'll go right into it. And I want to start with Ginger and Teju. I'll start with you, Ginger. What inspired you to get into tech?
Thank you, Dami. For me, it sort of crept up on me. It wasn't a deliberate, which is a word you're going to see me use most of the time in this session. It wasn't a deliberate journey into it. It started off by getting the IT support to troubleshoot for me on my system, to me doing it myself from watching what they do. And next thing I found myself in consulting. So from doing business process redesigns and having the IT team to automate those processes, I sort of moved from the process design to the IT deployment. And boom, I'm in fintech and then I'm in edtech. So it crept up on me. It wasn't something that I said, okay, I want to get into IT and I want, or someone mentored me. It was as things unfolded, I found out that my experience, and I found out I had huge interest for it. It wasn't as all the myths of tech being too, up there, was demystified in my opinion. And so I got into it and I'm in it today.
Sounds good. So you just pretty much crept up on you. Found yourself in.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Found myself in it and I'm in it.
Okay. Perfect. So I want to hear from Teju now. Is this kind of like the same experience for you, Teju? Or you had a different pathway in IT?
Oh yeah, no, not really. So it didn't exactly creep up on me. It was kind of a conscious decision. But for me, it was, I knew I didn't want to do anything in engineering. So at first I canceled out tech and I was just like, oh, this isn't for me. I'm not an engineer. But in, I think, my second or third year in university, I attended a Google International Women's Day event. And I got to hear certain women speak. I got to hear Juliet Ehimwan, who at that time, and even still now, is the country manager for Nigeria, and Teju Ajani. And honestly, I don't remember what they spoke about, but then I remember them being there and talking about their journey in tech and now, where they were. And it made me realize it was something I could do. I don't have to be an engineer. I can be in tech. I can, it made me see the opportunities for people who aren't directly engineers to shape technology. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I want to do. And from that point on, I started to actively pursue working in technology. I feel the need to correct something. So even though I used to work at Venture Guardian Group, Send Cash and Get Cards are subsidiaries of Bitcoins. So I'm the outlier here. I don't work at VGG.
Oh, my apologies. I think I had made my wrong. But thank you so much for that correction anyways. But I have a question for you. You said from the get-go in university, you never thought tech was for you. Why did you think that way?
To be fair, I'm not even sure if it was about gender specifically. I just didn't really think engineering, maybe there was a part of my mind that was just shut off from engineering. I just really didn't think it was for me. And so when somebody says they're studying computer science or computer engineering, I'm just like, no, yeah, that all just sounds like stuff that I don't want to do. So that was just it. There was just a part of my mind that just felt like this wasn't really for me. So it wasn't exactly gender related or anything. I guess it was just a personal inclination, that wasn't towards engineering.
Okay, so it was more personal. Okay, that's I just wanted to get that out of the year on air pretty much. It was much more of a personal thing. I mean, given the fact that you were able to attend a conference, which pretty much, I guess, changed your mind and perspective about things in tech, was there any things that could have gotten you into tech sooner than you did?
Yeah, so for me, I think I actually got in, I guess, like fairly early because it was in university. But if maybe I had sort of something, that sort of exposure or that sort of representation earlier, I might have felt, oh yeah, tech is something that's, I should get into, which is something that I think that we need to do more and more of. It's not necessarily about saying, oh, you should do this or do that, but having people who look like you, people who sound like you, who talk like you, Black women, saying, oh, I'm leading XYZ at Google, I'm leading XYZ at YouTube. It just automatically opens your mind and lets you dream in that direction. So maybe like having those kinds of things earlier, like having those kinds of things, for instance, in secondary school, where people say that working in technology and shaping technology isn't necessarily writing code. There are lots of different ways that you can shape technology. So yeah, that would be for me.
Wonderful. And I want to throw the same question to Yoju. I'll bring Yoju on the screen here. Is there anything that could have been done differently around you, in the society around you, maybe in the school around you at the point where you were, Yoju, to have gotten you into tech sooner?
So yeah, for me, like Ginger, I started off my career and I didn't really think tech in the first place, right? I pretty much learned on the job. I experimented my way through. I researched my way through as well. So it was a case of me trying to understand what all of that was about, right? Based on the platform that I had. I mean, my job at the time. So it was me understanding things as things were unfolding, right? But over time, I got to know what it was about. I got to know, the expectations and things like that. I started, taking on training programs and things to help me get into it fully. But I think what would have gotten me in sooner would have been maybe opportunities to sort of expose me to that a lot more. Because I would say that at the time, the perception that, oh, engineering, computer science, and things like that were for guys, like this is like the men's world kind of thing, just pushed me away. And it was a case of, I mean, at the point of choosing a career, maybe if at the point of choosing a career or choosing a course to study in school, naturally when people are very good with their sciences and mathematics, the automatic inclination is that, oh, you should be a doctor, oh, you should be a medical doctor and things like that. So that was my mentality at the time. I wanted to go to the medical world and all that, which I did, right? But I then found my way back into tech because of what I had passion for, what I found more interesting to me. And of course, with the platform that I had, I was able to do that. But I think if I had gotten a better understanding of, the fact that tech is not all about tech, first of all, right? There are other roles within tech that are non-tech. And then there are also things that, women are able to do very convenient. There's nothing in tech that a woman cannot do. That's a fact, right? And you find that a lot of women are doing amazingly well in tech. So there is that need to constantly encourage young women, young girls, to let them know the opportunities that are available, to let them know that, this is not a men's world, which is what is typically playing right now, right? It's a mix of everybody bring all of the ideas together. Imagine if, the men and women are able to come together to, bring all their expertise and skills together. It's going to be exponential. So I think opening up that opportunity, encouraging more women events, women in tech events and things like that, it would be a way to transition girls from that mindset of, this is a men's world to it's open for all, let everyone come and play in here.
Wonderful. And I mean, you mentioned pretty much there that it's kind of like ingrained in people's ideologies that tech is a men's thing. Is it something that is told to you from your primary school or your elementary school or your secondary school, or is it just something that you saw that where you looked into the workplaces and people using the computers back then, they weren't usually women, you were just men? Was it one of those two or something different?
So I wouldn't say it's one of those two. I think growing up, right, for me was the case of, generally the perception is that, oh, the boys can play video games and things that will make them, build their problem solving skills. The girls just go to the kitchen, help with the domestic chores, just help with other things that, would typically not build you and parenting and ability to let women and girls know that, there is this opportunity for you, that awareness, removing obstacles for girls and women, and making them know that, you can do this, right? You have what it takes to do it. And there is no stopping you. Just build your skills and acquire the right competencies. You're going to be able to do exceedingly well without, all of course, there are issues around gender biases and things, but I don't think it was any of those. It was just a case of the perception and expectation of society. And also, I think from parental preferences around, girls can do this, boys can do that. That kind of segregation should be removed. And then, of course, with better awareness, better opportunity, opening up to women, creating there are a lot of women skill acquisition programs that she coach, she leads. There's so many of them. Raising awareness about those sort of programs and skill acquisition will really help to build a lot of women, give them access to learn, and then of course that opportunity to build themselves towards preparing themselves for those roles. So I think that would really help.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Yonju. And I want to throw Maggie back in here. What do you think is the state of affairs currently in closing this gender disparity in tech, both globally and locally?
Thank you, Dami. I will answer that question by starting with this. So I watched the video of a survey that was carried out by the Harvard Business School. And the goal of the survey was to see, what people thought, how far they had gone in, bridging the gap. So the goal was, when do you think we'll be done with equality, would reach equality, right? And, men and women both were asked this question and different people gave different answers. You had people going 5 years. Some people said 10, some said 30, some went all the way to 50. But the interviewer ended up disclosing that it's not going to be attained until like 208 years from now. But yeah, that reaction was my reaction. And that was the same reaction for every other person. Every other person went like, what? Yeah. So it just goes to show us that we are still very much behind and we have a lot more to do. There's a lot to do and we need to expedite the process. So what exactly do we have? I went through this, research report that was put out by the National Center for Women in Information Technology. And I saw a trend. So, I saw a flow. So in the year 1991, we had 36% women in, computer-related fields. So they had computer-related jobs. By 2015, we had 25%. So we can see a downward trajectory of, 11% in 24 years. And where are we right now? Like you said, we're still at 25%. Although some places will say, some survey reports will say 26%. So let's just say give and take 1% up that ladder. And it just goes to show that something is wrong somewhere. Like, what are we doing? What is the problem? How can we make it better? So if you look at what the problem has been, you will see different people giving opinions about, lack of the right awareness or having the right models in their life, which is something Yonju has spoken on about extensively. Having the right people to, show you the way, show you how to do it, show you the possibilities, to help change the mindset about it's a man's world to it's our world. We can do this together. You have the working environments, the management systems that they had, in their workplaces, not giving women, a voice, having women overlooked, underpaid. We have situations of balancing work and personal life, family, your personal health and work, making women choose family over work and, going outside of that field. And then you have the situation where you just didn't have a platform for growth. So the opportunity to advance, to grow, when you have a management opportunity or a higher opportunity that they tell you, the description for this job is as a man, a command of a man. And because you're a woman, you can't, climb up that ladder, right? So these are some of the things that made that, that downfall from 36 to 24%. And where are we now? We have a lot of companies that have been a lot more intentional about, reaching the SDG goals, right? Including women in processes. You see job descriptions that say, this is a woman's role, or we need women to fill up this role. They are being more specific about what they want, and including women. We have a lot of platforms. We have the She Codes, She Secure. We have people personally going out on projects that goes to empower. So I have this friend, her name is Blessing Malumi. She works with Microsoft, and every summer and beyond, she goes to schools to teach children how to code, right? They have summer coding camps. So we're having people being more intentional, doing more things to make it, to increase the awareness, to increase visibility, companies stepping up to provide more platform. But is it enough? And if a survey by Harvard, within the US says, in the next 108 years, you're not going to get there, what do you think it's going to be for Africa, for Nigeria? We have a very, very long way to go. So we're doing the work. We're doing the work. We're advancing, but we still have a lot to do. And yeah, we just keep working towards it and trying to achieve that goal.
Thank you very much for that answer. And also staying with that point that you mentioned some statistics there, and obviously the downward trend in women in the tech space currently. What do you think are the suggested initiatives or platforms? I know you mentioned a few, maybe you wanted to mention some others that can facilitate the inclusion of women in tech.
Yeah, like I said, we're having a lot of pop-ups that are encouraging women and giving them a platform. I feel like we still have a lot of work to do. We need a lot more exposure. If we're going to go back all the way to, let's even say we're not concentrating on women that are working right now. Let's go back to the previous generations that are coming, and creating a lot more awareness. We need to let girls know that they can do anything, they can be anything, they can join this field, they can do more. They need to have the right, mentors in their lives, the right people to look up to, the right people to put them on the right path. We need to change this narrative of it's a man's world or it's a boy's world to it's our world, and we can do it together, and we both have the potential to be great in this space, right? So something Yonju said was, if you do it and I do it, and we bring in equal levels of activities, we'll be able to do a lot more together, as opposed to I can do it best, then you should go sit down outside kind of mentality, right? So also platforms like this, events, conferences, meetups, those bodies that come together to empower women. Like I said, there's the girls that code, there is She Secure, there is they're different bodies that come together to create awareness and give platform and form as a base for women to come together and empower themselves. We can keep having this, and not just in the name of wanting to close out the other gender, but being more intentional about women empowerment. So seeing more of that coming up would also help put a good foundation and bridge this gap. Also, we need to reevaluate processes in companies. Companies need to be much more intentional about looking at the flow and the processes, the policies they have in place. They need to be much more intentional about including women in the processes they have in their businesses. So we have a lot of companies that are coming up and saying they want to have women, but when they do get women, there are a lot of hush, keep quiet. do not do this, do not do that, you can't do this. Whereas, you know, the male counterpart are given a higher leg up, right? We need companies not to put up a facade and make it look like you want to come off as, you know, giving women a platform, whereas your internal processes are not working for women, right? We need a genuine change within companies that would take into consideration, you know, equal pay, equal rights, equal voice, a seat at the table, and all of these things. We need to be much more intentional. And finally, I would like to talk about, you know, bringing the other gender along. So it's not a fight that women are fighting alone. We should, you know, have the other gender come along. So the male gender should also be intentional about coming on this fight with us. If we can do it together, we can close this gap faster, as opposed to, you know, one gender fighting through it. We can do it together. We can change the narrative, and, you know, we can stand up for each other and make sure that we have the right, you know, equality and equity in place for women. So yeah.
Sounds good. And I like the points that you touched on there. I mean, not just inclusion in workplaces, but even more consideration in the workspaces for women. And yeah, I think your points are definitely very valid. I wanted to throw the same question to Ginger. I'll bring Ginger back on and I'll have her comment on the same question. Suggested initiatives or platforms that can facilitate the inclusion of more women in tech.
Thank you, Dami. I mean, Yonju and Maggie, they have spoken extensively about this, but, you know, in looking at the platforms or initiatives, one will be saying, what really are the issues? You know, because the platforms initiatives are actually meant to, you know, solve these issues. And the issues that are coming out are all the stereotypes. And, you know, some of us have, you know, there's also self-stereotyping within there, because some of us actually think or thought sometime in our lives that no, tech is not for us. It's common till we become aware, you know. So there's some self-stereotyping, there's gender bias, there's that lack of support that Maggie spoke about within the organization, and I can testify to that, where you're, instead of giving you a project to work on, you're told that a male is more dependent because he's not going to go on maternity leave. So you have such lack of support within the organization. You have leaky pipelines, people dropping off. So, you know, to address this, we have to start from the very bottom, which is getting girls, and I'm stressing that word girls, meaning very young in age, getting them into STEM, you know, science, technology, engineering, and math subjects, you know, getting them in it and getting them to stay, because some get into it and drop off from lack of support. You know, some drop off before they get into tertiary education because they just don't have that support. They don't see, and then all this social construct about what a woman is meant to do and what a woman is not meant to do begins to drown out all the earlier things ahead about getting into STEM. So that will strengthen the pipelines. We won't have leaky pipelines. We will have a lot of women coming through, you know, understanding the basics of, you know, this tech field. Now we have some getting to the university, they need this support. What kind of support can help? Teju spoke about attending the Google session, and that helped her. Sessions like that, sessions like this, it will let a lot of women know that that woman can do it, I can do it. Hearing her story seems similar, so there's nothing wrong in the barriers I'm facing or barriers I'm not facing, you know, it's the norm. And so the woman forges ahead. So having that deliberate, you know, attempt to have sessions like this periodically, also mentorship, which is where I agree with Maggie, bringing in, it's not just women that to mentor, because we can't fight this battle alone. There has to be, because the social construct, the men and the women. So everyone needs to be in on this deliberate mentorship. I told you I'll be using this word deliberate a lot because there has to be some intentional, you know, way about it. Not just, okay, just like I got into IT, it wasn't intentional, it wasn't deliberate, it was just, oh, it's something I could do. And like Yonju, I started researching, I started getting into it, and I found that all that, you know, myth about it not being what a woman could do was just that, a myth, you know. Furthermore, there are women that were not able to, I wasn't able to have a tertiary education in IT, but platforms like EduTech, we have a platform that connects students, in this case, tech, those that want to have a degree in tech, anything tech. They can also want, some of them don't want a degree, they just want to be able to be work ready, have the skills, build the competencies. You also have an opportunity on this platform to build those competencies. So you could be working anywhere in those fields that are meant to be for women and begin to build those competencies on the side. And there's nothing like building work ready because you get to have internships. And once you're through with that, then you can get into the workforce, at a certain level and begin to grow from there. So these deliberate attempts are very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ginger. I like the repeated use of the word deliberate, because that's what we have to do going forward. That's what the work systems have to do going forward. And maybe you can also comment about the role of the government, recruiters, or investors, depending on which angle you want to take on this, in bridging that gap in tech space. I know you've all repeatedly mentioned the word deliberate. So let's get deliberate about which angles or which entities can actually do what. So I'd like you to comment about that. What's the role of the government, recruiters, or investors in bridging that gap in the tech space?
Okay, I'll hone in on the investors. Okay, the investors, take this research in 2018 by the British Business Bank. Okay, 89% of the fund, this was a research on venture capital and founders. 89% of that fund was given to all male startups, startups that had all males as the founders. 9% was given to founders that had a mix of male and female, and then just one measly 1% was given to startups that had only females on it. So investors need to begin to give startups with women as a founder a chance. That will also encourage more women. I say this all the time, IT is genderless. So we can't believe that because she's a woman, she wouldn't be able to have the brain muscle. These are not muscles you build up in the gym. These are, brain muscles that are built from research and knowledge, and it's genderless. So investors need to give startups with female founders a chance, and then in there, the investors, you can also have the companies, because 45% of women that start off in IT drop off because there's no internal support. So the support Maggie was talking about, what I spoke to my personal experience, that internal support needs to be there. Let's not feel alone. And that's something Venture Garden Group is doing very well. The woman doesn't feel alone in that journey. You know that the company appreciates you and it keeps you going. So these are things that we need to adopt. Thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you for taking the angle of the investor. I'm going to throw the same question to Chidima. I'll bring Chidima on the video here. The role of either government, recruiters, you can even comment on investors if you want, in bridging that gap in the tech space.
Okay, thank you, Dami. Thank you, Ginger. So yes, Ginger said a lot, especially when it comes to investors. I think that they can really do better. Okay, so I understand some investors will say that there are not enough women co-founders or founders for them to invest in, but that also pushes the point that incubators or incubating programs have to maybe create special events or programs that are specifically targeted towards women who want to build businesses. I find that men tend to have a lot of support and maybe mentors that can guide them through on, how to start their businesses, how to start their tech businesses, but there's not enough support for women. So how do I even know how to build a scalable and profitable business if I don't know how to even go about it? How will an investor take interest in me if they know that they are going to be losing money? So it starts from incubators, having specific programs for women. I know that Venture Garden Group have an investment arm called Greenhouse Capital that only funds companies founded by women. And sometime last year or last 2 years, they gave them about I think $100,000 for the winner of the program. So these are things that people can do, investors can do, target businesses that are specifically owned or at least co-founded by women, so that you can encourage more women to come into this tech field. Aside investors, private people also
Is Chidimar there? Chidimar, are you still with us?
Don't have enough reach. So they definitely need to be able to partner with other companies. Okay, let me tell you how I got my job, right? After learning how to code with an organization called Girl Code Academy, they connected me with Venture Garden Group to go for interviews, right? Of course, I also came correct. They didn't just employ me because I had gone through that program. I wasn't the only one who had gone through that program. There were probably about 60 ladies, and I was the only one who got a job that year. But at the same time, I think it's very important for all these startup programs, all these incubator programs to partner with companies, right, that can employ people, because even if you're training women and they don't have any job to go into, then it's just a waste, right? That's how they drop off, as Ginger has said. If you start something and you're not getting the right support that you need, or you're not even getting the right jobs, at some point you see yourself doing something else that was never your plan. So having companies partner with these guys, if you can't do it on your own, if you can't have your own internship programs and all of that, then you need to partner with guys who already have the platform, who are already doing this and can provide you the numbers, and maybe internally also train them, because it's very important for you to know that people that are coming in maybe at the internship level, they don't know so much. So don't expect the whole world from them. They've not had that many years of experience, how maybe men or guys would already have. Most women who are getting into tech probably would just start from after they've left school, or when they realize that, oh, these mates are just mates and I can actually join, then they start learning. So you can't expect the same level of experience from someone who is joining in 1 year, from someone who has been learning it for about 4 years, even if they're coming for the same internship program. So they need to be very intentional about, okay, we want only ladies for this particular program, and we are willing to support you on this journey. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chidima. And I want Teju to comment on the same question. What do you think about the role of government recruiters or investors in bridging that gap in the tech space?
Okay. So everybody has done, I guess, like a good job on investors and governments. So I'll talk about what I think recruiters can do. And for me, it's the same word that everybody else has said. It can't be random, right? It has to be intentional. So recruiters in organizations have to like actively seek out women to hire. You can't sit down and say, oh, I'm trying to ensure that there's a gender balance, but I'm just going to be random about how I'll hire people and hope that half of them will be men and half of them will be women, right? You can't do that. So first thing I would say is, seeking out in partnerships with all of these female-led organizations. And you don't just seek out partnerships at the point where you want to hire. So you don't just go to them and say, I'm trying to hire 5 women or 5 software engineers. Like, it doesn't work like that. You have to make sure that from the beginning, even before there's the ulterior motive, you are supporting them, you are funding them, you are sponsoring their events. You maintain sort of like a close relationship with them, such that it's not just, oh, I'm coming now and I want to hire 20 women, oh, go and help me find these women. There's also something about being intentional in the hiring process. There was something, I think it was Ginger that mentioned about how certain people write job descriptions, and then they use certain words that, I mean, we know at least from experience that these are words that women tend not to identify with. It might seem like, oh, you're babying the person, but it's really not. If you're the one that knows what your goal is, if your goal is to hire more women, then be intentional about how you're going to do that. And read through the job description, see that it's something that women would be willing to apply to. If you are unsure, create like multiple options for the job description or whatever, and see what women gravitate towards. It's not doing too much. It's what we need to do. Apart from that, there's also, like I mentioned before, representation. Hire like women in leadership and show those women in leadership in public, right? Show people that we have women in our organization. Don't just hide them and show them on International Women's Day. Like, show them that you are a women-focused, you're a women-first organization, that you support women. Women have multiple needs. A lot of them are primary caregivers for their children. Show that this is a place where somebody who is a primary caregiver for a child can work, right? There's also like opening up bridge or internship type programs that I think Chidima mentioned, and that's very important. Everybody else cannot just work on talent for you to harvest, right? If you want women in mid-level roles, you need to invest in women who are interns. You need to invest in women who are junior developers, right? You need to put your money where your mouth is. Don't just say we want to hire women developers. Invest in them, right? Invest in women. And something else that's very important, I think, is showing practical action when people speak against women, like in your organization. When you see misogyny in your organization, when you see people upholding stereotypes that are backward, you need to like shut it down. Like show that you're an organization where like this doesn't happen. Like you don't just do that. Like it's that serious. It's extremely serious. We had the statistics from Maggie, and like it's crazy that it will take us a really long time. So we have to do things that are super drastic. Okay, actually, I have one last thing, and it's about like money talk and funding in general. And it's like a known fact that women and negotiation don't work very hand in hand. Something that I always say is that organizations should be very open and transparent about like money and funding and negotiation. Create like a very open pay scale across the organization. It's not always because X person can negotiate and sell themselves well, they get higher pay. If I'm doing the same work as a man, I should get the same pay. It doesn't matter if I'm shy when I come to negotiate. Like that's not the point. We're both doing the same job. We should be getting paid the same thing. Yeah, that's what I think recruiters can do.
Thank you very much, Sergio. You mentioned very interesting points there. And one of the points I picked out was in the job descriptions, for instance, in the job advertisements, putting specific terms in there, being deliberate about everything. However, putting specific terms in there that will pretty much catch female attention, right? What do you think? Do you think sometimes in the recruitment processes, there's not enough representation of female representation in those recruitment processes? That's why there might not be, at least, some terms in there that are not reflecting of what the organization, female focus of the organization. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, probably sometimes it might be that there's not enough female representation in the recruitment process. And sometimes that people just don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like people just don't realize the effects of certain words. And so because they're not conscious of it, they will just post those things. So it might not even necessarily be representation. It's just people who work in HR or people who work in recruitment thinking about it. What would a woman see and be like, oh, maybe this is not for me? And like, what would a woman see and say, oh yeah, it seems like this place is open. It even goes down to things like pictures, like the quality, the type of pictures that they use to, I guess, advertise the roles and things like that. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. All right, so we're coming to the final piece here, and I mean, just commenting on, I guess, technology, automation, and the future, and gender and the future of work. We've come into a space, we've come into a world where the pandemic has been in play for a year, has opened up several opportunities. I guess more talent to come on board from more races. We're no longer location bound in our workspaces, and we can pretty much work from anywhere. What do you think is the role, I guess, technology, automation, and the gender and the future of work? What do you think are those roles? Or maybe you could just comment generally on that point. I guess technology, automation, gender, and the future of work.
Is that question for me?
Yes, it's for you, Chidima.
Okay, I wanted to be sure. Okay, so the future of work, right? Very interesting. This time, as a year ago, we didn't know how fast things were going to change, right? I didn't know I was going to be working remotely in a few months, but yes, see where we are now. One thing that just keeps ringing out to me, and I'm sure to everybody else, is that we're no more playing at a local level, right? It's now international. You're no more competing with just women within Nigeria, within Africa. It's now women across the world. So I think that women need to scale up really quick, because in a couple of years, it's not going to be just the genders we're going to be talking about. It's not just going to be, men and women. There are several other genders that would definitely come into play and into the conversation. So this is the time when we need to really put in the hard work. We know that these are things we want to do. We know that we want to bring more women into tech, but we need to put action into it. It's not just about talking about it or just discussing it. We need to start putting in the action to help us scale really quick, because as I said, in a couple of years, things are going to change. Things are changing very fast. The competition is getting fiercer. So women need to scale up really quickly.
Thank you very much, Chidima. And for my questioning session, I think we'll probably just end things for the questions and for the panel discussion. Thank you very much, ladies, for your input, for your thoughts on these points. I'd like to open up, we have about 5 minutes left, and now I'd like to open up to the floor for any questions from the audience members. If there are any questions, we want to take any questions right now. Okay, this one is from Jordan Ella. And the question is, I'm not sure who this question is directed to, but it's pretty much, are there mentorship opportunities within your organizations? Maybe we could start this question off with Ginger. Maybe you can comment on that question. Are there mentorship opportunities within your organization? I think you might have touched on it, but maybe it's something you want to reiterate.
Okay. I think what the question is directing to is not just the platform, having the platform where we prepare you for work-ready skills, but yes, the way Chidima spoke about it and the way Teju spoke about it, which is giving you that mentorship within the organization. Are we going to employ interns? Yes. So we get in interns and we mentor them, into having work-ready skills, developing skills that they don't have. So is an all-inclusive environment, so there is an opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
All right, no problem. So yes, in Venture Gardening Group, we have these opportunities. Beginning of last year, before the pandemic, right, we had a virtual internship where we mentored interns virtually. They didn't have to be physically present at the office for them to learn. And eventually we hired some of them. Of course, there were women amongst them. As I would always say, the problem is always the percentage of women as compared to men is always very low, right? So you have maybe one woman out of 10 people. So we have 9 guys versus 1 woman. In the end, if any recruiter is going to take from that pool, it's always going to still be, that percentage, except if they say they want to take only women, which may be unfair to the guys sometimes. We also had another physical internship opportunity. And in this particular scenario, there were more women that were employed as compared to the guys. I think about 4 or 5 ladies were employed who currently still work with Venture Gardening Group, as opposed to maybe 3 guys. So yes, there are mentorship opportunities in Venture Gardening Group, of which I am a living testimony of.
Sounds good. All right, I think we have time for one more question. 1 or 2 more questions. We'll play by ear. Any other questions for our panel here? All right. So Teju, I think this question is directed at you. You mentioned earlier that she possibly could have gotten into tech earlier if she had been exposed to more role models in tech. Do you think over time that the number is improving?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I definitely feel like it's improving. I was thinking about that just this morning, and I don't know, it's much different from when I was in uni, for instance. It's a lot more now, and it's not just women who are software engineers. There are a lot of female software engineers, but there are also like a lot of female startup founders that people can look up to, like just randomly. There are a lot of female product managers, females in data science, in blockchain technology. I definitely feel like that number is improving now. But there's still like a lot of room for growth. But yeah, it's improving.
Sounds good. Maybe we can get some final thoughts. Maggie, what do you think about this number being improving? Is it improving?
Yeah, just like Tedros said, it is actually improving. You get to see people rising, and I think that it's also a plus to some companies. They're being much more intentional in pushing women forward. So you see women climbing up the ladder to like higher positions, and they take pride in showing it off. Like, okay, this person is now the CEO of this company or the VP of this company. They're giving more opportunities to women. So I think we have more people to look up to and to like have as models for people that are coming into the field and people that are also in the field. You get to know that there's potential for you to also grow and rise within your career, within your field. So yes, it's getting better.
All right, thank you very much. And I think that's all we have for questions today. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. Again, we're talking about leveling the playing field in the tech space for women. And I'd also like to thank the members of our panel today for joining in the discussions. This is brought to you by CyberX. Stay tuned for, and obviously it's part of a series from the 22nd to 25th. So I would like you to stay tuned for more events. Thank you very much once again, and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Thank you.